is Rashad White. We're starting to see that 2023 version of him who finished as a top 5 fantasy back.
I am completely scared of CD Lamb. He's got good matchups, but I don't see anybody that's going to be able to feed him the ball.
Calvin Ridley. Ridley is a guy who's getting a lot of targets. Since D-Hop got traded, he's gotten 32 targets in 3 games.
Deebo Samuel from the 49ers, he's battling injuries and he's battling teammates. He's pushing guys around on the sideline. He's over there crying.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Catching a Vibe. I'm your host, Drew, joined by the co-host, Mike. And before we get into it, can you guys please give this video a like if you want your fantasy team to win this week? We're back with more breakouts and panic players for the rest of the year. We had fun with last week's video, so we're going to do it again. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I agree. This is more fun. I mean, the waiver wires are pretty much hit. There ain't many guys out there that we should be talking about or you should be running out and going and getting. So I like this segment here.
Yeah, I do too. All right, so we're going to start off with breakouts. And my first guy is Brock Purdy. The 49ers just got their number one weapon back in CMC. So now they have CMC, Debo, George Kittle, and Juwan Jennings. Purdy has real upside with these weapons to finish as a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year. He's QB8 right now, and that was with McCaffrey, Debo, Jennings, and Ayuk missing time. He's averaging 22 points in the last 4 games, and if you don't like your quarterback situation, I try to trade for Brock Purdy because, you know, that 49ers offense is going to roll now since they got CMC back.
Yeah, Purdy, ever since he's come into the league, has done nothing but perform. He's top-tier quarterback. I agree with you there. He's got CMC back. Juwan Jennings is taking a place for Ayuk. I think he's a great play. I would stick with Brock Purdy. I would start him over a lot of the top-tier quarterbacks. I'd start him over Mahomes. So I agree with you there. One of my breakout guys is going to be George Pickens. He's starting to heat up. He's going against Baltimore this week, but I'm looking at the rest of the season here. This guy, for the last 3 weeks, he's had 5 catches, 111 yards, 1 touchdown, 22 fantasy points. The week after that, he had 4 catches, 74 yards for 11 points. Last week, he had 5 catches, 91 yards, 1 touchdown, 20 points. And the rest of his season, the defenses he's going against are mid-tier. He plays Baltimore twice, Cleveland twice. He's got Cincinnati. These are all divisional matchups. I think with Russ under center, these are going to be big games, and they're going to need these wins, and I think he's going to produce. I think he's going to be close to right now he's position ranked 18. He's averaging 12 points a game. I think he's going to end up in the top 10 at the end of the season. I'm really excited about George Pickens.
I could definitely see him doing that. All right, so my next guy, I'm going to TJ Hawkinson. Just came back from his ACL injury, week 9. Then week 10, he put up some solid numbers. He had 9 targets, 8 catches, and 72 yards, and he had those numbers and only played about 46% of snaps. So they're trying to ease him into it, but I think he's going to be one of the elite tight ends the rest of the year. And you saw last year, he had about 100 catches last year as a tight end. So you know what you're going to get from TJ Hawkinson.
I agree with Hawkinson. He was one of my guys I had wrote down, and you went over the numbers that he just got back. He had 9 targets, and he just got back from injury from his ACL that he had last season, and they already heated him up. They already threw to him or looked his way 9 times. I think with Jefferson being double covered or not being open, he's the dump-off pass guy for Sam Darnold. I really like the situation at Hawkinson. I like him for the rest of the year of being a breakout guy for you. I agree. I had him as one of my guys also. My next guy is going to be a tight end. Also, the tight ends are starting to finally show up this
Mm-hmm.
last half of the season for you. And I'm going to go with Travis Kelce. The last 3 weeks, he's had fantasy points of 25, 22, and 20 fantasy points. I think he's going to finish up as a tight end 1 for you. Right now, he's a tight end 3. He's averaging 13 points a game. He's blowing those numbers out of the water right now. Targets, right? Last 3 weeks, he's had 12 targets, 16 targets, and 12 targets. Mahomes is looking this guy's way, and he's going to carry you all the way to the championships. I think, this is not a breakout because it's Travis Kelce. He's finally waking up, and he's getting back to where he is. So he's my breakout for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. All right, my next guy is Cortland Sutton. The last 3 games, Sutton has put up high target games, 11, 10, and 9, and 2 100-yard games. He's receiver 16 right now, and the rest of the year, he plays teams that are bottom of the league against receivers. I would be feeling good if I had Sutton for a flex option or just depth in general, because you know what you're getting from Sutton, and Bo Nix is definitely looking his way a bunch.
Right. Bo Nix is actually looking very good, and he's going to feed Cortland Sutton a ball. So I agree with Cortland Sutton as being breaking out for the rest of the season as well. So one of my other breakouts is going to be Juwan Jennings. He's looking like a star now because he's finally got back from injury, got back on his bye. He's another guy. He had 11 targets on his first game back. He had 7 for 93. 16 fantasy points this last week, and I think he's the number 1 guy on his team. Deebo Samuel, for me, is a guy that's struggling right now to get any playing time out there. He led the team with snaps on the team right there. So I agree. I want Juwan Jennings out there as much as I can as my breakout. I think he's going to be a star down the road.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. My next guy is Rachaad White. Rachaad looked like a real bust the first 5 games, but we're starting to see that 2023 version of him who finished as a top 5 fantasy back. We're seeing him catch a lot of passes, and he's scoring touchdowns now. He's averaging 5 catches a game and has scored 4 touchdowns in the last 4 games. He has a week 11 bye, but I like him the rest of the year. And I like when Mike Evans comes back too, because that's just going to open it up a lot more for him, because he's a playmaker for those Buccaneers.
Yeah, I like Rachaad White. He's definitely the one thing I like about him is the receptions that he gets. He catches the ball a lot, so he's definitely a breakout candidate. 2 of my guys that I are on buys this week, Chuba Hubbard and James Conner, are 2 guys that I'm excited at the running back position. Chuba Hubbard is averaging over 20 points. I like his situation there. Jonathan Brooks is not getting, I don't think he's going to take much of his production away.
No.
Chuba Hubbard's a guy that I definitely like. He's the breakout the rest of the season. Carolina's just feeding this guy. I really like him a lot. And James Conner's a guy that he just produces. I love this guy. This guy goes out and gets the job done.
Mm-hmm.
So those are 2 guys to keep an eye out, and I think are breakouts this week. They're on buys.
Yeah, Chuba could definitely finish as a top 5 fantasy running back
right now. Yeah, he's definitely looking great. Yeah.
All right, so my last breakout is Calvin Ridley. Ridley is a guy who's getting a lot of targets, and he's producing big games since D-Hop got traded. He's gotten 32 targets in 3 games. In 2 of the 3 games, he has scored over 20 points. He has no threat to steal targets from him. Pollard, a running back, has the second most catches on the team. They have no receivers. Calvin Ridley, I'm big on him the rest of the year.
I also had him wrote down. He is a guy that you want to look at. I think you're right about him being the number 1 receiver with a drop off at the number 2 spot. There's nobody out there that's going to steal production other than Tony Pollard. I agree. Calvin Ridley, the rest of the season, is going to be I think he could end up being in the top 15 the way the production looks for his schedule down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree.
All right, so now it's the players we're panicking about. And my first guy is J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards is back from IR, and he took 10 carries away from Dobbins this past week. I think we're going to see them split carries. JK was taking about 70% of the snaps when Edwards was hurt. When Edwards was healthy, he was averaging a little less than 60%. And the Chargers are throwing the ball a lot more. At the beginning of the year, Herbert was only throwing for 150 yards, like 15 passes. Now Herbert's averaging 262 yards a game, and he's throwing the ball 30 times a game. So my panic meter for JK is like a 5 out of 10 right now.
I agree. I mean, Herbert is heating up, and they are starting to throw a lot. So he is somebody that you should be a little nervous about. So one guy that everybody out there in the world is nervous about for me as a panic guy is CD Lamb. You drafted this guy in the first round as one of the top 3 picks, right? Last year, he scored 420 fantasy points. He averaged over 23 fantasy points a game for you. Right now, he's at that 17 fantasy mark. But right now, with Cooper Rush, he was 13 of 23, mustered up a big whopping 45 yards passing in that game. I am completely scared of CD Lamb, and so is everybody else out there. Matchups they have, they're not too bad, actually. I mean, he's got Washington, Giants, Cincinnati, and Carolina. He's got good matchups, but I don't see anybody that's going to be able to feed him the ball. So I'm scared of CD Lamb. Are they going to go with Trey Lance this week? And if he's in there, he didn't look much better when he came in to play. He wants to tuck the ball and run. Mm-hmm. So that's really going to hurt CD Lamb's production.
Yeah, I agree. CD is one of my guys, too. Some things I have down for is Dak's most likely going to miss the rest of the year. And that hurts CD's upside so much. Cooper Rush and Trey Lance are terrible. CD can get 10 targets a game, but is he going to get catchable balls? You know what I mean?
Right.
He had 6 catches for 21 yards against the Eagles. The Cowboys' longest play was 10 yards. Mm-hmm. My panic meter is a 9 out of 10, especially because you drafted this guy in the first round, even a top 5 pick. He was going top 5 in fantasy drafts. So
right.
CD Lamb, scary hours.
Yeah, that's panic because he's not going to finish anywhere near where you drafted, where you invested in on him. He's definitely a scare. I would be panicking right now, and if you can't get rid of him, this would be the week. I would definitely try to get rid of him before. If he puts up another stinker, you're not going to get nothing for him.
Yeah. All right. So my next guy is David Montgomery. If you look at the numbers, Jahmyr Gibbs is averaging more snaps than Monty. 295 snaps at 240. Montgomery's last 5 games is averaging 13 points per game, where Gibbs is 18 points per game. It looks like we're seeing the Lions favor Gibbs more than Monty, and that's very concerning because Monty is a back that needs more carries, and he doesn't catch passes, and he's touchdown dependent. So my panic meter is a 7 out of 10 on Montgomery. I think he's a good player, but I hate that Gibbs has overtaken him.
Yeah, he is starting to steal some of his production, and it looks like the Lions are starting to throw the ball a little bit more, which favors Gibbs a lot more than Montgomery. You're right, Montgomery is a touchdown-dependent type of back. He is a little scary. I'm not as high as you on the panic button. I'm about a 6.5, 6 there, but I would agree. I agree about that. So my panic guy is going to be Travis Etienne. I know he's banged up and hasn't had so much of a great year, but you drafted this guy probably in the 2nd or 3rd round. He had 280 points last year fantasy-wise. He averaged over 16 points last year. He's averaging 8 points right now, and it ain't looking any better because now he's got another back in the backfield, Tank Bigsby, that they're happy about. They like feeding him the ball. So last 2 weeks for Etienne, he scored you a big whopping 5.3 and 5 points. He's got these knee issues going on. He's got some tough matchups going down the road. He's got Detroit. He's got a bye. He's got Houston, Tennessee, and the Jets. Those are all top-tier defenses that he's going to be going against. Banged up with a bad knee and Bigsby stealing production from you. he's not going to put up those numbers that you want. I'm panicking on him big time.
Yeah.
I think he's about an 8 panic on the meter right there.
He's been very bad this year in fantasy. All right, so my next guy is Javonte Williams. Javonte at one point was averaging almost 20 touches a game. And for about a 5-game stretch, he was getting 20. And last week, he had 3 touches. He had 1 carry for 1 yard and 2 catches for 6 yards. Estimate the rookie from Notre Dame, he had 46% of the snaps and 14 carries for 53 yards. Sean Payton told the media that Estimate was going to take on a bigger role the rest of the year. So for a panic meter, that's a 9 out of 10 for Javonte Williams.
Yeah, I agree. Javonte Williams is in a bad situation with Sean Payton wanting to use about 4 or 5 running backs throughout the game. He's not even carrying the most of the workload. I would run away from Javonte Williams pretty fast. You're right. They got Jaleel McLaughlin comes in for passing downs. He's stealing the reception production away from Javonte Williams. Estime's running the ball. So I would stay away from any of the Denver Broncos backfield right now because it's panic mode. Mm-hmm. They're on fire right now.
Yeah.
So my next guy is going to be Michael Pittman. He's another guy you drafted in about the 4 or 5 round at the beginning of this season. He put up 250 fantasy points last season. He averaged over 15.5 points last year. He's at 8 points himself. He is in a bad situation. The QB play stinks. Who would have thought Gardner Minshew was the best person for Michael Pittman? He made him look great last year. Now, he's not even the top receiver on that team. Mm-hmm. I would look at the other guys. Downs or Alec Pierce are better options to me, I think. Yeah. He's got a brutal schedule coming up. He's got the Jets. He's got Detroit, New England, and then he's got Denver and Tennessee. All of those teams are at the top of the best defenses against the pass that he's going against. Last 3 weeks, here's his fantasy points. He's been 9.3, 2.6, and 2.4. He's putting up some stinkers for you, and I don't want to even play him because Joe Flacco isn't the answer for this team anymore either. So with AR on the bench, they're going to flip-flop these guys around the rest of the season. This team is going downhill fast.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, so my last guy is Malik Neighbors. This was what I was nervous about in preseason. Danny Dimes sucks and will be the reason Neighbors falls off a little bit. Neighbors is super talented, but it's like the CD's situation, getting screwed by who's throwing the ball. Obviously, Daniel Jones is better than the Cowboys' backup quarterbacks, but the first 4 games, Neighbors was averaging 22 a game. Now in the last 4 games, he's averaging 11.5 points. Is Neighbors going to have some good games? Yeah, but he's not going to be going on a tear like he did in those first 4 weeks. I would play him every week, but you got to relax on expectations. I think he's a good receiver too, flex play. He's definitely not that 22 a game anymore the rest of the year. So panic meters like a 4.5 out of 10. It just depends on your expectations for him.
Right. At the beginning of the season, he had such a high ceiling. I think he's got a high floor, but a low ceiling now with Daniel Jones struggling. He's going to get a lot of targets and a lot of receptions, but I don't think he's going to get the massive yards like he did at the beginning of the season, plus those touchdowns. He's going to struggle quite a bit, I think. I would like to not panic, but yes, I'm going to panic on him. I'm a little higher than that just for the simple fact that, it's not going to be quality numbers. It's going to be volume, but not quality, and that's going to be a struggle for Neighbors down the road. So he's probably about a 5.5 for me. All right, so my last guy I'm panicking about is Deebo Samuel from the 49ers. Right now, he's position ranked 34. He's averaging 12 points a game. He's battling injuries and he's battling teammates. He's pushing guys around on the sideline. He's over there crying. I'm just worried about his productions. It seems like all the balls that he's catching are at the line of scrimmage or not downfield. He's not putting up big numbers for you. Plus, now CMC's back into the mix, and he's not even dominating the snaps. Juwan Jennings is dominating the snaps. Debo had 50 of 64. Juwan Jennings had 58 snaps out of 64. Ricky Pearsall is getting involved. He had 41. So all three of these guys out there are starting to get up there and out snapping Debo Samuel. I'm worried about his production. With CMC out there, he's going to steal some of the receptions. So I'm really going to have to bench Debo Samuels. I'm panicking on him big time. I don't like his position on this team right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. He's definitely not the number one guy for the team, so that definitely should cause panic. But to wrap up, you have some sleepers you want to talk about, or more like a waiver wire list.
Yeah, they're waiver wires. Like I said, they're sleepers, guys to keep an eye out for. I got Trey Benson down. In case James Conner goes down, you might want to pick him up going into the end of the season. You always want a handcuff guy. Also, he had 10 carries, 62 yards, 2 receptions for 25 yards. He had 10 fantasy points on the day for you. Another guy to think about is Matt Collins for Buffalo. He's starting to get involved in there. He's a bigger wide receiver, and I think he's going to be looked at downfield. He had 4 catches for 86 yards. Josh Allen is definitely going to try to throw the ball downfield to him, so I really like him. John Minchie's another guy that, in college he was a stud. He had some injuries off the field or some things that slowed him down. He's finally getting back into the mix. He had 5 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. He had an 18.4 fantasy point for you. He's a guy to look at, especially with the receivers on this team. Nico Collins is battling, trying to get back out on the field. Tank Dell didn't have a very good game this last week.
No.
So he's a guy to keep an eye out for. Ricky Pearsall for the 49ers, as we just talked about Debo Samuel, he's starting to get some play out there. He had 4 catches, 73 yards, a touchdown, 17 fantasy points. So he scored more points than Debo. They're starting to look his way. He's a guy to keep an eye out for. So those could be your waivers or some help for you down the road.
No, I like that list a lot. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down what players you're nervous about or players that you're excited about for the rest of the year. We'd love to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. And if you're new here, please subscribe. We're getting closer to 1,000 subscribers. It means a lot to us. We'll see you next time. Peace.